I thought for this project, instead of doing some screenshots, what I would do is go ahead and walk us through the website and highlight points that I was making in my paper. I'll start by going to Google and clicking on his link to his webpage. Right here, a little movie, Flash movie loads, already breaking web conventions. You know that this isn't your normal information site. So here we go. Right away, it starts off with this movie with this man walking through. There's music. There's these little white bubbles that float down and kind of form into like these cottontail type things. So remember this man. We'll see him again later, and I'll talk about gendered environments with him. I'm going to go ahead and shut off the music just so that we can listen to what I'm saying a little bit better. Um, Ways that it's breaking web conventions, once again, is that little movie that it starts off with. And we can see that the navigation bar is down in the left hand corner of the screen, not in the ideal space up here where navigation bars are normally located, nor are they on the left nav where they're normally located. So it's not in the ideal and it's not in the given information. Kind of interesting. Down here, if we look, there is an option to translate it into English. I'm going to go ahead and do that so I can walk through. Something else that happens in the website is that there isn't a back button. So if you go to projects and you go ahead and you click on a project here, what happens is you get here, but you can't click back. Of course, that main navigation is still there, but if you look down here, you can't really tell which collaboration you're looking at. That link does not stay highlighted. There's one way that you can look and see what you're viewing right here. Going through the viewed projects is going to keep track of all the projects that you do view. Another web convention that's broken is clicking on links and opening in new browser windows. If you click blog, you're going to go to a new browser window here. If you click press, you go to that new browser window that opens. That's something that Nielsen and Loringer say is a huge mistake. Additionally, there doesn't really seem to be pop-up windows. However, if you go to any of these that actually have content, these are his self-portraits. So you can go here and you can click, and you get like a little pop-up window in the Flash itself, which is kind of interesting. A different major web convention that he breaks is the introduction to his website. Nowhere does it say automatically that this is Demetrius. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not even going to try. It doesn't say that it's his portfolio or that it's his body of work or invite you to use it. It just kind of shows up and creates this environment that you're automatically drawn into that you should be using. So three of the main arguments that I make are that it breaks these web conventions, but it's doing it for a main purpose. If we look at the historicity of Demetrius himself and Greece, if we look at the scopophilia and identification, and if we looked at gendered environments, we can see how this website is kind of flipping those all up on its head, or upside down on their head, and negating them for a specific purpose. So first I would talk about, Demetrius growing up in the era that he did, talking about a rhetorical history. In 1964, he was born in Greece, he grows up, he's gay. Being gay yourself in Greece is illegal, and you can't get married, you don't have natural rights. So in that sense, he's automatically subversing the culture by coming out, by being who he is. Secondly, he's growing up in an era where postmodernism and avant-garde are exploding in Europe. People are discussing these ideas of how to negate modernism, which is definitely having a huge influence on the art that he creates. Like if we look at Two, which I mentioned, it's dealing a lot with male desire, with bodies and identity, kind of negating our idea of what a modern man should be. And then if we think about scopophilia, as you can see here, there's a lot of sexual content going on in his website. This man has his pants pulled down and is doing odd things with a Barbie doll. This man is being groped by a group of men. This guy is lounging half naked. So there's all this idea of like sexuality and desire going on, which is why I argue that he creates this little silhouette of a man that kind of crosses the screen every now and then, and hopefully he'll show up for us. Here he is. He's in the right hand corner here. This silhouette never turns his face to you. He's always profile. However, he does go ahead and look at the art on the screen. So his function is to remind us that, yes, we are viewers, this is spectatorship. Please don't use my website for a sexual desire. He's saying something there. He's breaking the fourth wall to remind us that this isn't pornography, this is art, it does have meaning. Now to talk about gendered environments, something that I think is super interesting is that these cottontails come from the back of the man, but the man doesn't interact with him, he doesn't, cultivate the land to produce something new. And by creating kind of this feminized landscape, the man himself has become kind of feminized. So something else that goes on with this gendered environments is we can see that the ideal space every so often will change. Let me see if I can get it to change here. There we go, it changed. So we have like this forest growing in the background, but at other times we'll have a different background that shows up, which is dealing with bodies and people. Sometimes it's dealing with like hard scribbled spaces that look really masculine. So I argue that the ideal space is changing constantly through a masculine landscape to a feminine to a masculine, and overall it creates this transgendered environment, which is really like a rhetoric of irritation because it's not masculine and it's not feminine, but it's using aspects of both to make us realize that gender is a construct, and we can't really look at his art or his web page through the eyes of femininity or masculinity. We have to kind of try to understand that sexuality is constructed and that it's not normal. So the last thing that I wanted to comment on was nonlinear timelines. So basically, we normally understand that, dates in the past start on the left, and the given information, dates that are new go to the right, and we have this linear progression of how things work. However, in his website, it doesn't necessarily adhere to that fact. So we have 2008 kind of in this era right here, which is just 2 years ago. But we can go over here and occasionally see we get to 1985. So he's not transgressing on this idea that his work is progressing. It's just that his work is what it is. If we go to productions, we can see on this here there's kind of a timeline, but it starts at the beginning and then goes backwards. We can also put it alphabetically, which is going to screw up our timeline. And so what the web space really does is give us this idea that history isn't fixed. It can happen in all sorts of different ways and all sorts of different ideas on how a timeline can be represented. Additionally, it doesn't allow us to put labels upon a time period of the work that he's creating. So we can't look at this and be like, oh, this is Demetrius's blue period, or this is Demetrius's something else period. So overall, I think that the website is hard to use. It's hard to realize what you've seen and what you haven't seen. It's hard to remember the path to get there. But I think he's a really great visual artist. I think that he specifically had this website designed for him in his body of work so that we can't write narratives of sexuality, we can't write narratives of gender, we can't write narratives of progress in time, and we can't specifically write a modernist ideal or a modernist approach to the usability of this website. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my movie. I hope that it was informative, that it kind of helps format my paper a little bit better, and I will be turning this in just a few minutes here.